Programming webinar, which is part of the Indiana State Library's Ask the Expert series. My name is Beth Yates. I'm the Southeast Regional Coordinator at the Indiana State Library. I will be your host and the question moderator today. Our presenter this afternoon is Meghan Alexander, Yoga Librarian at the Hagerstown Public Library. I do have a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First of all, if you have a question during the webinar, please just type it in the chat box. It's on the upper left-hand side of your screen. I think many of you have found it already. I will be watching that, and we'll get to your question, we'll get your question to Meghan as soon as there's a good opportunity. And there should also be time near the end for questions too, I'm sure. So we will be sure to get your questions answered. The other item of business is LEUs. This session is 1 hour or a little bit less, so you will get one LEU for today, and I will be sending those out hopefully sometime in the next week or two. I hope to be including a link to this webinar in case you want to be able to refer to it in the future. And I think that's it. So Meghan, if you're ready, we can get started.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Meghan Alexander, Yoga Librarian at the Hagerstown Public Library. And this is Mindfulness Matters. So we're going to talk about incorporating yoga into library programming, and this is an exploration of community through self. So this is just a little bit about who I am. I'm a certified yoga instructor, 200 hours RYT. I'm also a certified leader for yoga in the classrooms. And just a few fun facts. I love to spin records. I love the earth and nature. I love to spontaneously sing and dance. My children appreciate that, I'm sure. I'm a humanist, and these are my beautiful daughters, Aubrey and Emily. So now, if you don't mind, we're going to do an interactive portion of the webinar. So I have some slides that are going to help take you through a seated sun salutation and some stretching, just all from a seated position. So I would ask now that you sit comfortably in your chair. If you can, place your feet flat on the floor. Please do so. If you need to move up a little bit, that's fine. If not, in your toes touch, that's okay too. So I'm going to ask that we start by gently placing our hands in our lap, rolling the shoulders onto the back of the body.
I'm trying to do this too as we go.
Yes, thank you. We're going to take an in-breath and really lengthen through the spine, sitting up nice and tall. Now, as I start every one of my yoga classes, I invite my participants to close their eyes or lower their gaze. And we're just going to take a moment to be still. So we're not really focusing on anything at the moment. We're just quieting, coming into the space, dropping into the body, and preparing for some gentle movement. So I'm going to give you just a moment. One of the things that I like to draw people's awareness to is to notice the cool air coming in through the nose and the warm air coming out. Really taking a moment to quiet the body, quiet the mind. Breathing deep into the low belly, expanding the low belly, expanding the low back. Breathing in all the positive, the goodness, and then exhaling completely, really emptying the lungs of all that stale, stagnant air. Taking a few cycles of breath here. And now we'll begin our gentle warm-up. So I'm going to be moving through the slides, and they'll demonstrate what I'm going to be leading you through. So on the in-breath, extend the left arm and bring it up overhead. Cradling the head, on the exhale, gently bring the left ear to the left shoulder. Holding here, feeling that nice stretch in through the right side of the neck and the shoulders. And gently releasing the head, bringing the arm up, exhaling, the arm comes back down. And now we're going to inhale, bringing the right arm up overhead. Cradling the head, we exhale, gently bringing the right ear to the right shoulder. Holding here for a moment. Inhale, releasing the head, bringing the arm straight up. Exhale, bringing the arm back to the lap. And hold on just a second. Bear with me. Bringing the hands gently to the lap now. We inhale, bringing both arms overhead. And we exhale, bringing the hands to heart center. Inhale, bringing the arms overhead one more time. Exhale, we're going to forward fold completely, resting the belly on the legs, letting the hands come long to the side of the legs and the head becomes heavy. Breathing here for just a moment. Placing the hands on the thighs, use your hands to assist the body back up into an upright position. And now we're going to take the right knee and bringing it up to the chest, dropping the shoulders away from the ears, and we're going to let the head come back, extending through the neck and holding here. Bringing the head back to center, gently releasing the right leg. And now we're going to bring the left knee up to the chest, holding here and extending the neck back, dropping the shoulders again away from the ears, feeling that nice stretch through the throat. Bringing the head up to center, gently releasing the left leg to the floor. Now we're going to bring the hands to heart center, and we're going to take the left elbow and go across the body and rest the left elbow on the right thigh. Now your gaze is going to be over the right shoulder. So we have a nice seated twist here, making sure that the sits bones stay on the chair and the feet are still on the floor. Inhale, bringing the body back to center. We take the right elbow now, crossing the body, placing it on the left thigh, twisting at the ribs. And the gaze is forward or over the left shoulder. I love these stretches. And releasing the body back to center. Resting the hands gently on the legs. Now we're going to inhale, the arms come back overhead. And exhale, we're going to come into a full forward fold. Again, resting the belly, the chest on the thighs, letting the arms hang long to the legs, and letting the head hang heavy. We're going to breathe here for just a moment. And with this breath, we're going to focus on expanding air into the low back, really breathing space into the low part of the body. Placing the hands on the thighs, using your hands to assist the body up into a comfortable seated position. Now what we're going to do is we're going to inhale, the left arm is going to come forward, straight forward, and we're going to lift the right leg. And this is a good balance here. So if you need to hold onto the side of your chair, or you can leave the right hand on the thigh, pushing the left foot into the ground. And on the inhale, really lengthening through the spine, holding here, and release, bringing the foot and the arm down. Now we're going to inhale. The right arm is going to come up in front of the body, and the left foot off the floor, really pushing in through that right foot, engaging the left thigh, lengthening the spine on the inhale, holding here, and release. Now this is a really great one to open the hips. So now I invite you to come more to the edge of your seat, placing the right foot firmly into the floor. We're going to prop the left ankle onto the thigh. If you feel any pressure in your knee, please be sure, the knee that's folded, please be sure to flex your foot. Flexing the foot, flexing the toes in this posture will relieve pressure from the knee. Now, if you'd like, you can just stay here in a nice upright position with the spine long, or when you inhale, you can fold forward over the folded leg. Really being mindful that your right knee is at a 90-degree angle. You don't want it to fall to the side. And holding here, the gaze is forward, or you can let the head hang heavy. But you all should be feeling a nice stretch in through the left hip right now. Okay, pushing with your hands, coming up into a seated position, releasing the left foot back to the floor. Now we're going to switch sides, so really grounding down into the left foot, bringing the right ankle and crossing over to the left thigh. And remember, if there's pressure on the right knee, flex the foot, flex the toes. So taking an inhale, lengthening through the spine. Exhale, we can fold forward over the right leg, or you can stay in a nice upright position. The gaze is forward, or the head can hang heavy. Taking a few breaths here. Really breathing in space to any tension that you feel in your body. If you're feeling tension into the hip, the right hip, be mindful that on the in-breath, you're breathing into that hip, really creating space, moving the tension around. Taking another cycle of breath here. And very gently and mindfully coming up into a seated position, releasing the right foot back down. Once again, we're going to inhale, really stretching, bringing both arms overhead. And this time I'd like you to bring your gaze up to the hands overhead, lengthening through the spine. Exhale, bringing the hands back to heart center. Okay, and this concludes the seated chair yoga opener that we have. So I hope that was fun for everyone.
Yeah, that was great.
Okay.
Nobody fall asleep, please. You're too relaxed.
Okay, so let's talk about some yoga. Excuse me. So what is yoga? And this is a picture of me doing the yoga in our children's department. This is where we have our adult yoga classes. So yoga actually means to yoke, and this is to unite. So what we're trying to unite is the mind, the body, and the breath. And this is one of my favorite quotes. Yoga is not about touching your toes. It's about what you learn on the way down. Because in doing yoga, we find out so much about our body, what we're capable of, what our limits may be for the moment, where we are right now, and then we can work to achieve other states of being within our body, our mind, and our breath. These are a few examples of yoga that we do. So this is my story time yoga, a few of my kiddos. On the left, you see they're doing partner poses. So this is boat pose, and it really takes an equal amount of arm length and leg length to make this work. So they balance, and they put their feet together and they hold hands, and this is our boat partner pose. On the right, what you see here, the little things that they're standing on, I decided that hauling a bunch of adult yoga mats to programs was really not going to work. So I took a couple yoga mats and made yoga dots. So I take the yoga dots with, and I find from doing these programs without the yoga dots, the kids just sort of roll all over the floor. And when you have the yoga dots, it really claims their space. They really have a sense of their body in that space. And so you can see we've inhaled and we've taken our arms overhead, and this is our sun salutation. We say, I'm happy, I'm kind, I'm strong, I'm honest, I'm flexible, I'm silly, I'm love, I am me. And this is also how we do yoga. So this is a picture of one of my adult classes that I do every other Monday evening. And what you can't see is on the right side, I actually have one person more deep in the stacks. And on the left side, I actually have two people deep in the stacks. So we really just kind of make it work. We get everybody in there. So what you see here is what happens at the end of yoga. This is everyone's favorite yoga pose. This is Shavasana. Okay, so how does yoga work in library programming? So these are some of the points that I'm going to be touching on. Community without within, physical or kinetic literacy, service yoga, and being a yoga librarian. The picture that you see here is from my last yoga story time that I did for a summer reading. And this was ages 3 through 6. And we went and found items in nature, and they made a nature mandala. It turned out really beautiful.
I love that.
So community without and community within. So how it all began. So I was teaching adult basic education, and a friend of mine said, hey, there's a yoga teacher training happening. Why don't you do it with me? I really took a leap of faith. Yoga was not a part of my everyday life. I had done it before. I enjoyed it. So I signed up for the yoga teacher training program, which lasted a year. And my job with the adult basic education, the funding was cut, and so they stopped doing the classes, and I had to find another job. So I heard that Hagerstown Library was hiring a community outreach coordinator position, and I went in for my interview, and I had put on there that I would soon be a certified yoga instructor. I was 2 months away, and my director who was interviewing me at the time said, so tell me about this yoga thing, because the theme for summer reading was going to be wellness. And so it all just kind of came together. So needless to say, I got the position as community outreach program coordinator. And then that was in August of last year. And in October, got my certification for yoga as a yoga instructor. And then really felt called to start implementing yoga into our community outreach programs and the programs that we were doing within the library. So that's how that worked out. Now, as we started doing more yoga programs, people started asking questions. Like, I started doing preschool. I ended up having 4 preschool classes that I would go to, and I would sort of alternate. So I would do Mother Goose, I would take my ukulele and we would do some ukulele things, and then I started doing yoga. And the teachers really had a lot of questions about, well, this yoga thing, it's so incredible, Megan, because you can make them all just lay down and be really quiet. And it's really beautiful to see a room full of 3 and 4-year-olds lay down with their hands on their bellies, breathing deeply into their bellies. Their eyes are closed and everybody's just quiet, sharing in that moment. And then we do lots of fun things too. So that's kind of how that happened. And so why are we using the library? So the library is really a center for informal learning. And so when I think about the library, I think about all of the diverse ways that we can bring the community in and that we can go out into the community and provide opportunities for them. And so we were doing the yoga preschool, and people said, well, hey, do you offer a yoga class in the library for adults? So I started doing a lunch break yoga. Now see, we're a rural library, and the nearest yoga studio is about 30 to 35 minutes away, maybe. When I look at the population of our library, I find that a lot of the people who come to my yoga class either don't have time to go to a studio and take a yoga class, or that's not something that they're really interested in doing. So the library is really a common space for people to come in and have the opportunity to move with other members of the community and engage in mindfulness and movement. So.
Right, and I mean, with all the changes in libraries over the past 5 or 10 years and how we're going to have to continue to change,
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a wonderful way that the library can serve as a community and bring new and different people and even just new and different experiences to their patrons and their community.
And we really have the freedom to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing. And so here, again, with why the library, it's so centrally located in our community. It's within walking distance to things, like I said. It provides a safe space for people to come. You know, when you're in studios or if you're doing something in a school, sometimes people have these experiences that keep them from coming back and engaging in activities in those spaces. I haven't met one person who has had a really traumatic experience at the library and never wants to come back again.
That's good.
It's a safe space for people to come. All people are welcome in the library. I have had in my adult classes before a 35-year-old and a 75-year-old.
Oh, wow.
And so we really have a broad range of people. This summer I had some teenagers, some middle schoolers come in and join in on the fun. So, and like I said, the library is a center for informal learning. So we offer up all kinds of things.
We have a quick question if you
Sure,
have time.
absolutely.
Karen would like to know, do you have any concern with liability? Or are you going to address that?
We
later?
are going to address
Okay.
that. Absolutely, 100%. Thank you. That's a great
Sure.
question. Okay. Okay, so this is where you become like a rock star. So you go downtown to pick up lunch, and you see a little from your preschools, and it says, they always say, Mommy, it's Miss Megan, she does yoga with me. And the parents kind of look at me like, what are you talking about? So it's really awesome because, like I said, I'll do Mother Goose with the kids. I'll bring in hot pink ukuleles to play. But I'm telling you, what these kids remember is yoga. And I don't know if it's because it's the mind, body, breath aspect where they're engaging, but we sing and we dance when we do the ukulele. But there's just something about it that the kids don't say, hey, there's Miss Megan, she brought in a hot pink ukulele. They say, Mommy, there's Miss Megan, she does yoga with me. And so it's absolutely the coolest thing. So the littles are a really great marketing tool because they love you and they want to talk about everything. So yoga and the littles, preschool yoga, like I said, I had 4 classes that I went to. Storytime yoga is something that I really enjoy. I had the opportunity this summer to go to the Kinetic branch in Muncie and do yoga story time. I went to the Franklin County libraries I did a 4-week, 5-week actually, because July was really long. I did a 5-week stint at Union County Library, and then Yoga Storytime Yoga is a really great opportunity because you can pull picture books, you can create poses to go with the story. The children are engaged in that way. We have puppets at our library, so I stuff a bunch of puppets in a pillowcase, and we do puppets and poses. So the kids pull out a puppet, we do the corresponding pose to go with that pig or king or a unicorn.
Oh, nice.
So the kids really get to be lots of different things. And what we saw earlier, the nature mandala, that was one of the lessons that I did at Storytime Yoga as well, was creating mandalas and that whole process of the quiet, focused meditation in creating the mandala. And kids are super awesome, so we know that. So let's talk about physical literacy. This is actually a definition that you can see comes from the Physical Health and Education of Canada. Individuals who are physically literate move with competence and confidence in a wide variety of physical activities in multiple environments that benefit the healthy development of the whole person. So basically, physical literacy is everything that you do. It's opening the cupboard. It's walking to the car. It's things that are engaging you to become better aware of yourself and how you move within your environment. So going forward, so physical literacy is everywhere. Oh, here, hold on one second. Okay, so this is my definition of physical literacy and yoga programming. So through yoga, children and adults will learn how to read their body. When this happens, they are better equipped to read and navigate the world around them. And I think that's absolutely beautiful. If we're not aware of how we move in our environment, then how can we possibly be aware of what other people are doing? Mm-hmm. So physical literacy is important, and one way to achieve this is through yoga. So, okay, physical literacy is everywhere. I think it's really awesome. So how do you read your body? Now this comes from, we're talking about yoga. So I'll give you an example. There was a high school girl whose parent thought that perhaps she should start coming to yoga. She was going through this and that and, moving through these awkward phases and everything, whatever. So this girl comes to my class, and it is so incredible to watch her as a teenager. She is so focused during the practice. She takes direction so well. You can tell that in the poses, she's really concentrating on her alignment, on her breath, on her focal point. She's really surrendering to the whole process of the mind-body-breath connection that is yoga. This girl keeps coming back. It's like her most favorite thing. But it's really getting her in tune and giving her the confidence to be who she is with her thoughts, with her body, and existing in the world that she lives in. It's really been a really nice thing to witness. Excuse me. In that way, we're building trust. This is such a beautiful way. We have to have trust to build relationships. This is what we do in libraries. This is how we are successful in our endeavors, is building these trusting relationships. And we can do this because when you're in a yoga class, you really allow yourself to sort of become vulnerable. You're in with people you may not know. You're in with people you do know. You're being led by somebody that may have, this is the first time that you've met me, And this goes for children too. So when you don't know what people have gone through. You can only invite them to participate in the things that you're guiding them through. So for the children, it's really beautiful because some children may not want to close their eyes at first. That may not be comfortable for them. You go through this practice and you find that over time, the wigglers stop wiggling. You know,
Yeah.
they feel free to close their eyes and just be in the moment. So the building trust is a really huge factor for this. Building trust in themselves that they can do things. I have people come in and go, oh my gosh, I can't do that. Are you crazy? Fast forward 3 classes, 4 classes, and people are really impressed with what they can do with their body. They trust their body will get them there. It's beautiful. And so this is one of my favorite pieces, is the quiet and calm social engagement. We are all social creatures by nature. What we tend to do, though, is to be social and engage by talking, by laughing, by interacting in some way. I love to watch my preschoolers engage with each other in a quiet and calm way. So they understand that, hey, I can be with all my friends and we don't have to be negotiating something. We don't have to be talking about something. So at 3 and 4 years old, they can just be quiet and calm with their friends, and that's still participating in a social arrangement.
That's a great lesson.
Isn't that awesome?
Yes.
And where do we get that?
Yeah.
You know, we really don't
No.
have the time to just be quiet and be engaged together. Oh, I love it. Okay, does anybody have any
I need that for my
questions?
kids.
Yeah, okay. We'll come do a mini
Yeah,
session.
yeah.
Is this a good time? Does anybody have anything?
Yeah, we don't have any questions other than Karen's question about the liability, which
Okay,
we'll
yeah.
get to
We are getting there.
for the moment.
Okay.
Any questions, anyone? I don't see any typing.
Okay. Well,
Oh,
here
Suzanne's typing.
Okay.
Oh, multiple attendees are typing.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Suzanne wants to know, do you have to convince board members to do yoga in the library? Like, did you have to worry about your board when you guys decided to do yoga, or was Ruth just, your director, so supportive that it wasn't a problem?
The board was on board 100%. In fact, the board has agreed to send me to the National Kids Yoga Conference in Washington, D.C. in September because they see the benefit and they hear the feedback in the community. And so it's a thing.
Suzanne says, woot.
Yay.
Let's see. Someone else wants to know, Becky wants to know which program you're certified, or which program certified you. And then Jency wanted to know, can you go over how the yoga in classroom certification works? I'm familiar with the RYT, but I haven't heard about the classroom option.
Okay. So, what was which program are you certified? Okay.
Yeah.
So I am certified through Yoga Alliance, which is a nationally accredited yoga organization. And the yoga for classrooms is actually something that when I was hired at Hagerstown Library, Ruth thought was really going to be beneficial for what we plan to do. And so she actually signed me up for that. I'm trying to think, yoga for classrooms, that's the thing. It's yoga for classrooms, and then there are different levels that you can be certified through. So I'm certified to lead yoga in the classroom. I went through that training. Now there is a training that I'm interested in where you are trained to train staff in the education setting on how to implement and sustain this practice in the classroom. So it's really pretty cool. You get a box of yoga for classroom cards, and they have breathing techniques and community outreach options and seated yoga and partner yoga and standing yoga and all these different ways that children can individually come back to focus, can be centered, can calm down, can stretch, can get themselves where they need to be and function in the classroom with more mindfulness. So,
Karen says that employees do yoga at her library, I guess. Is that right, Karen? Before
Awesome.
work, 7:30 to 8 a.m. on Monday and Wednesdays. That's awesome.
That is so cool.
And then Tina says, I live in a small town. Are there reliable online courses?
Online courses, I'm so awkward at those. So if I try to do something online, I get hemmed up because I'm trying to look, my hair's falling in my face, I'm not keeping up. The online courses to become certified, Tina, is that what you're wondering?
Yes.
Yes. I do not know of any online. The one that I did was a teacher training at a studio in Richmond, Indiana, and I think there were 15 of us that went through, and it was led by a teacher who was certified by Yoga Alliance to teach the 200-hour teacher training. And when you're doing something like yoga teacher training, you need to really be hands-on. You have to learn about adjustments. You have to learn how, just with the whole thing, there's practicums that you have to do and teaching classes and then coming together as a community with your other, with the cohort that you're going through with. So I'm not aware of any online. I would say if there's a teacher training offered near you, take advantage of being with the people and really going through that process. It's beautiful.
Richard kind of agreed here. He said, if you're looking for certification, I would suggest live teaching environment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the one that I did was a year.
Oh, wow.
It was from October to October.
What, like, how many times a week did you have to go for classes?
We would go 1 weekend a month.
Oh, okay. So it was on the weekend.
1 weekend a month, but it was intense.
Okay.
So we would go Friday night, all day Saturday, and half a day, well, like 8 to 5 on Sunday. So, and then we had excursions that we would go to and different elements that kind of tied into to yoga, but it was 1 weekend a month. So.
And one more question from Tina.
Sure.
She says, how do I find one near me?
You can go on to Yoga Alliance, look up that site, and because they're the, that's who I'm certified through, and they should tell you where trainings are going to be offered near you.
All right.
Wonderful.
Looks like we have somebody else typing, but why don't we go ahead and move forward, and then we can always come back.
Sure. So this is what I'm doing through the library is what I call service yoga, and you can see my little cart, and I haul this around. During summer reading, we stopped offering lunch break yoga at the library because it was in our children's area. We didn't want to block the kids off from being able to come into the children's area. So downtown, the Hagerstown Museum was kind enough to let me have my yoga lunch break adult classes up in their museum, which was a really beautiful space to have yoga. So this is part of my stuff that I would carry around with me. Have gear, will teach, that's what I say. So service yoga is yes, I can, yes, I will do this, and yes, this is possible. So what is service yoga? So service yoga for me it's free yoga. We don't charge because really it's more or less focusing on a rural, underserved population. And we kind of touched on that a little bit before. A lot of the people who come to my class won't go to a studio for whatever reason. I love the idea of libraries offering free yoga because of the many benefits that we've talked about. Service yoga is free. It's free. And we just reach whoever we want, who's willing to come. It helps build a community within a community. So I have lots of people who are coming to my class, repeat offenders, so to speak, people who keep coming back. And so we're creating this sort of community of yogis within our library community, within our Hagerstown community. And it's just what we do as a library, you know, how we provide opportunities. It's just what we do.
Right.
It's what we do. Service yoga. I love it. And I love this. So the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. And you can see here, this is my little sign that I put outside on Main Street in front of the library. Free yoga upstairs right now, brought to you by your friends at the Hagerstown Public Library. So this was every Tuesday afternoon, and I would have a good turnout for that. So school started now, so we'll see. We may have to add another evening class to accommodate everyone. But it's just providing a service. If we can provide a service and reach members of the community who are interested and who benefit from that service, then that's exactly what we should be doing. So this is one of the things that I did. This was the adult kickoff to our summer reading. So I put together a Soul Sunday. And so the Soul Sunday started, you can see here in the upper left, we've got a beautiful bowl of water, we have some candles, we set some intentions, we lit the candle, we placed it in the water. It was a very beautiful sort of ceremony of sorts to start. And then I did an hour of practice. So we went through an hour gentle flow sequence. And then we took an hour, and you can see in the lower left, we created vision boards. And so the vision board, I don't know if you have ever done that, but some of the people had, some of them hadn't, and everybody really had a great time, you know, cutting out things that they wanted to manifest in their life, things that they wanted to happen, you know, for themselves, things that they wanted to focus on, wellness, spirituality, love, anything to enrich their life. And so that was the second half of our Soul Sunday, and it was really great too because we got lots of donations from our community as far as goodies to eat. Of course, it's wellness, so we had lots of healthy things. And it was just a great community effort all around. We had a good turnout. We had about 9 people there. So that's Soul Sunday.
I love the setup. It's beautiful.
Thank
Everybody in a
you.
circle.
Thank you. Yeah, and we had the one of the local florists donated rose petals.
Oh, nice.
Even the rose petals were a gift. So
Are the blankets part of, you guys provide the mats and then the blankets as well that you?
yes, so that's a great question. We provide everything: blocks, straps, blankets, mats. You just come in comfy clothing and bring water if you'd like, and we do the rest.
Did you need a grant to get that?
Materials? Well, that would be an option.
If you
Yeah,
didn't have it in your
yeah,
budget.
absolutely. Yeah, but we were able to get those, and we started out. You can get them in bundles, so I think we had enough to provide for 13 people, maybe to start. So here we go, qualifications and safety. So if you're going to implement yoga, you know, and this is one of the tricky things. I'm a certified yoga instructor who works in a library. So you're set. Now, and I can provide free yoga. It's really best to have a certified yoga instructor who's been through a training, who is aware of working with limitations and disabilities or things that people have gone through, because you're working with the human body, you're working with the human emotions and the human mind, and you really need to have a sense of where people are coming from and where they are in the moment. Certified yoga instructors should be pretty good at that. So if you don't have a certified yoga instructor on staff, then you can work with a studio. Talk to a local studio and just say, hey, you know, this is what we're trying to do. This is the benefit that we see that could happen. It could benefit the studio. It could benefit the library for sure. And I'm not going to say that a yoga instructor would come in and do it for free, but there are ways to, you know, donations, and then split it between the friends and the studio, the instructor, or.
At my old library, I was at Johnson County before the state library, and a couple times I did get a local studio to come in, and in exchange we let them put out their brochures and just share information about their own classes. So they looked at it as more of an introductory sort of class,
Right.
instead of a regular. It would have been nice if it was a more regular.
To be able to sustain it.
Yeah.
So the insurance, I have the insurance through the library, and then I am insured personally through Yoga Alliance as an instructor. So I carry that with me. And so I made up some liability forms. So anybody that practices yoga with me has to sign a liability form waiver. If they're under the age of 18, the parent has to sign. And then as far as safety, so I hope that answers that. I'm insured, the library is insured, we're good. The liability form, I'm not a doctor, I'm not going to heal anybody. I mean, you really kind of have to lay all this out.
Richard wants to know if you would mind sharing a copy of your liability form.
Ooh, I didn't bring one with.
If you
But absolutely.
send me a copy, maybe digital, I can include it perhaps with the LEUs when I send out
Yes,
LEUs.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Sure.
And then as far as safety is, you just have to know your audience. So here's a story that I like to share. So you have the liability form, and on the liability form it says, has anybody have you had any recent, is there anything about you physically that we need to know about in order for you to practice? Everybody puts no. No. There's nothing going on with me. I'm perfectly fine. So I had a new student come in for a class, and her liability form said, no, I'm good. So we're going through the sun salutation. I notice that she's uncomfortable. So I bring her a chair. And so I start going through the same things with her in a seated position, hoping that would, okay. So she's still uncomfortable. So come to find out, she has a bad back and she's prone to sciatica.
Oh, no.
She works in an office and she sits all day. So I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. And this is the beautiful thing about working in the environment such as the library, because it's so informal. People aren't paying to be in a formal studio setting. So I stopped the whole class. And there were about, 5 of us in there, and I said, okay. So what I did with her is I took her over to the end of one of our stacks, and I propped her up in what's called legs up the wall. So it's where you put your legs straight up the wall, and you scoot your hiney all the way up to the wall, and then we placed a blanket under her low back and one supporting her neck, and that is where she stayed for the remainder of the class.
Oh, wow.
So legs up the wall is really beneficial because we stand upright all the time. The blood flows in one direction. So when you bring your legs up the wall, it encourages your blood to circulate the other way. It relieves all the pressure off of your low back. And when you're laying down, it actually relieves your heart. So it gives your heart a chance to rest. Isn't that wonderful?
Mm-hmm.
So she stayed in legs up the wall for about 20 minutes, which is about the time that they recommend that you do legs up the wall. So we ended the class, and she came out of the legs up the wall. We got her down safely. And she was just apologizing all over herself. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't go. I said, hey, look. I said, if you were at home, would you have put your legs up the wall and laid there comfy, cozy, and delicious for 20 minutes? And she said, no. I said, come back anytime. So this is the really beautiful thing. Know your audience. Come prepared. Have these kinds of things available to people who just, maybe you just, remember Shavasana? I have people who just take a Shavasana right in the middle of yoga because that's what they need at that moment. And I've created such an environment that they feel completely comfortable doing that. And then they pick right up when they're ready. So, yeah, there's that.
That's great.
Thanks. And so here we've come to the end. So I would like everybody to sit nice and tall through the spine one last time, placing the hands gently on the thighs, rolling the shoulders onto the back of the body again. We're We're going to take a breath in, and we're going to sigh it out together. So breathing in through the nose. And let's do that one more time. Breathing in. And as we wrap up every yoga session, bringing the hands to heart center, the divine light in me honors the divine light in each and every one of you. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you, Megan.